let us set the scene. Here you are, Giga von Chad, the 666, scholar, inspirational leader, conqueror, leading your glorious country. You're an absolute legend by all accounts considered. However, one thing you do not have is immortality, and hence in time you will die, and will have to be replaced by your successor. EU4, however, is not a game like CK3. You can't have your perfect inbreeding program to create the ultimate heir, and as such, you are forced to roll the cosmic dice. So what do we get this time? Of course, our wife, while claiming to be righteous, may not have been entirely righteous, and may have been sleeping with our head science advisor, William Shakespeare. Regardless, this is the only reason I can think of explaining as to why our heir is this. Is there truly nothing we can do outside of disinheriting and trying again? Well, maybe there is. See, with the advent of all of these updates and a couple of the other ones, one of the new features, shall we say, that Paradox has been sprinkling in has been an increase to the base monarch stats you can gain. Now, it used to be a very unique modifier, reserved for great countries such as Prussia with their +3 mil. However, now even more and more countries have access to it. Today we'll be constructing the ultimate iron-compatible how many average monarch points can we stack. And one of the first things I encountered while attempting to quote-unquote route this is the Wikipedia is pretty hilariously out of date. Basically half the modifiers here are missing of what you can actually achieve. Furthermore, Paradox, while being relatively trigger-happy with adding a lot of these new modifiers, actually made a lot of them relatively exclusive. Albania, for example, is a country that cannot be formed. Furthermore, unless you're starting as Albania, there's no other way to get access to their mission tree, which means the +1 military monarch point we get from the Albania mission tree is practically forever lost to us unless we play as Albania. A similar thing can be said for the Pope, and hoping that France just likes you and gives you +2 admin and 5 discipline at the end of the game. That's a very strong modifier. Unfortunately, the Pope cannot become Albania, and Albania cannot become the Pope. There's some kind of political subliminal messaging there, but either way, that is the case. A similar thing we encounter, for example, with Bohemia, who has +1 dip in the end of their mission tree for all of their rulers. Unfortunately, Bohemia cannot be formed, so unless we start as Bohemia, that +1 dip is not accessible to us. With all these explanations of who we're shot with, who are we actually going to start this campaign as? And if you guessed Livonian Order, you would be correct. So, why are we here in the Livonian Order? Well, you see, Livonia has access to a unique government reform. As a matter of fact, they have a lot of access to a lot of unique government reforms. It's not something you can tell though, because the branch of mission tree, while a cool idea, is very hard to tell at a glance of what the hell is actually going on here. So what is this unique government reform that I'm referring to? Well, as Livonians decide that maybe we should stop being a holy order and try and do something else, they can reform their government, and if you follow a very specific path, you can become the Livonian Enlightened Monarchy. A very powerful monarchy, they're giving you +1, +1, and +1 in each one of your future ruler stats. So why are we taking this instead of, say, the +3? Well, the nice thing with that unique government reform is that it doesn't require us to stay, well, Catholic. It also doesn't require us to stay, well, Livonian primary culture. Which is very convenient, because that's... Baltan primary culture. Because that's actually what we're going to be doing. We're not going to stay those culture groups. For the purpose of demonstration, however, we will be flipping into monarchy when we do get that unique government reform. And that is one thing we will have to stay as a monarchy. But let's just do that now. This is why I added the admin earlier. None of this matters, because we are now a monarchy. And we will be the Lithuanian Enlightened Monarchy right now. So instead we'll just become an autocracy. I know, basically the same thing as an enlightened monarchy. And what is the next step here? Well, funnily enough, you'd think it would be something like, you know, forming some obscure country. Not quite. What we need to do now is become Tengri. This is harder than it seems initially. For those unaware, you can't flip into Tengri if you're an unreformed religion. If you're a reformed religion like Catholic or Orthodox or monotheist faith. First of all, we will need to borrow some paganism by either flipping animist or fetishist, which means we'll need to take a quick pit stop in either Africa or South America or Central America. Regardless of which one you choose, We'll be able to flip Fetishist and then flip to Tengri using the conventional means. Thankfully, we don't need to do that, given that we are just demonstrating right now of this potential. So, we will now convert ourselves into Tengri. Turns out, even using console commands is quite special, because apparently the religion ID for Tengri is Tengri Pagan Reformed, of course. It's the first thing I thought about. Anyway, once we do that, we gain access to very unique government reform at the tier 4. It's the legacy of the steppe. The reason this is unique is, of course, it gives us an extra military point, meaning that we are now at 112 of our planning runs. Now, while we're at it, let's fill out the rest of these government reforms. None of the ones that I'm not mentioning, basically take whatever you want. But the reason that we care about this is at tier 7, we will take dynastic administration. Makes us mildly more corrupt, and gives us an extra advisor, and makes our estates less influential, but more importantly, gives us a monarch admin skill. Why is this great? Well, monarch admin skills are going to be something we're stacking quite a few of today. We will, of course, continue on this step. And again, none of these matter until we get to the end, where we will now actually allow people the right to petition our incredibly enlightened monarch, which means he's +1 better at diplomacy for some reason. In terms of our ideas, only one will actually matter. We will be taking the newfangled court ideas that have been released, and we will be filling them out. The reason, of course, is rather simple. It's probably the most obvious: access to monarch dip skill +1 in the entire game. And now it gets less pretty. See, the relatively free, although flipping Tengri certainly wasn't free, sources of monarch points are mostly exhausted. However, there's still 3 monarch points for us to pick up. And for that, much like the Tengri, we need to go, well, the opposite of west actually, so completely unlike the Tengri, we will need to go east. And the reason we're going east is that we will need to go and arrive at this little place called Korea. So why are we going to be in Korea, you ask? Well, once we take over Korea, we can change our primary culture to Korean, allowing us access to the... I'm not pronouncing this. I'm sorry. I would like to monetize this channel at some point. Anyway, so the reason we want this is that, well, once that province remains Korean, and that province remains Confucian, and we use our Tengri mechanics to syncretic faith into Confucian, we will have access to the Genbok Palace, which, when at level 3, will give us a monarch admin skill of another +2. But this is not quite the end. See, now that we are in Korea and probably conquered our way across here, there is one final pit stop to make. China. See, China, once we become the emperor of it, we don't actually need to conquer much of China, just enough to grab the emperorship, we will need to reshape our bureaucracy, which will of course give us an extra monarch admin skill +1. Which means that if we do all of those things, we will be in possession of +5 admin, +3 dip, and +2 mil on all of our rulers. That means that the average 333 ruler that you generate for just existing becomes a remarkable 865. Obviously 8 not being a valid thing, he will become a 665 on average. Which is pretty incredible. So with that established, let's get some math done now, because we all love math. What are the chances of getting a 6 admin ruler if we have +5 admin? And for the record, all further math mentioned here will be rounded to 3 significant figures. With that experiment out the way, the chance of getting a 6 admin ruler is 93.8%. So 93.8% of all of our rulers, that is over 9 out of 10, that's more than the average dentist recommendation, will have a 6 in their administration skill. But we're all here to answer the question posed at the start of the video. How close are we to guaranteeing, or at least significantly increasing the chance of our 666 CK3-esque genetic breeding program? And the answer is we're remarkably far. We will achieve a 666 ruler 31.2% of the time. Now that isn't perfect. There's still 68.8% of the time that we will not have a 666. However, how does that compare to not having any modifiers? How does that compare to the base EU4 ranking, shall we say, of rulers? Well, at the bare minimum base, to get a 666, you only get it 0.0244% of the time. That means by doing all those relatively obscure things I've just mentioned, getting ourselves the 666 ruler using this method in normal times is 127,795 times better. And I don't know about you, but I think 127,795 quality increase is a pretty substantial jump. Well, that was a fun experiment. Unfortunately, there's not much else, but there may have been some stuff I missed. As I mentioned before, the Wikipedia article that normally covers a lot of this stuff is hilariously out of date, with basically half the things I've mentioned on this list not being present on it. As such, if you do find something, do please let me know. But for now, enjoy 31% of your rulers being a 666, and if everyone ever does want to attempt this run in Ironman, it is doable, but all I will say is, good luck. Well, that's been enough for me. I will see you in the next video. Bye!